Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me for a shorter yin sequence. For yin, it's always helpful to have props available. So I encourage you to grab some pillows, some blocks, some blankets, anything that would feel supportive as we soften. Yin is a practice that allows gravity to take the place that effort often holds. Actions like pulling, pushing, striving. We instead choose to let gravity do the work for us to bring us where we need to go. And gravity being that external force is why yin is all about passive flexibility, a practice that is used to increase mobility by exploring our range of motion with the support of an external force, gravity being the focus today. So while it's a practice that is very beneficial to increase mobility, it's often in these external forces that we tend to push past what is actually our intelligent edge. It's that external force that allows us to reach a new place of growth. So it's necessary to use discernment to find that edge that is sustainable, using the external force to be a means to reach a different place and soften into it. But we're always most connected to the breath. So with that, let's jump right in. Today's sequence will be quite short and simple. The holds will be slightly longer, 2 minutes or so. Have props nearby, and with that, we'll jump right in. We're gonna make our way onto our bellies. Not always the most typical, but that's where we'll begin. Lying on our bellies. And you can really open the feet wide, tops of the feet down to the ground. Bring your elbows out wide, stack your hands on top of one another, and then rest your forehead to the hands. Just close the eyes. And first, just begin to deepen the breath. Allowing the back body to rise and fall. Feeling the way the belly connects to the floor. Feeling your rib cage expand with your inhales. And feeling this general heaviness with your exhales. And now begin to deepen the breath. Breathing in and out the nose. The breath is full and complete, but not necessarily, or it's certainly rather not forced. But we invite our breath cycles to be long and fluid. And now we'll begin to simply wiggle the hips from side to side. The forehead relaxes towards your hands. And this rocking motion, it should feel really good and quite nourishing. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's a gentle wiggle. And eventually momentum takes over. You don't really have to think about the movement. Stay with the breath as you continue to rock the hips. breathing fully in and out the nose as you do. And then really slowly, without abruptly stopping the movement, just stop fueling that action. So let the hips slowly find their way to stillness, just letting the movement slow down all on its own, letting momentum take its own time. And just feel the resonance of that really simple movement. We'll take a few clearing breaths. We'll inhale through the nose. And as you exhale, it's called horse lips out the mouth. You... It is exhaling out the mouth, making a gentle sound with the mouth. We'll do that 3 times. Take in a big inhale. Exhale, horse lips out the mouth. Twice more. Last one. And then stay committed to your breath. Slowly rise all the way up to Sphinx pose, bringing your elbows underneath the shoulders. If this feels like too much sensation, then you can always walk your elbows forward. It'll be less sensational in the low back, but you'll keep your elbows in line with the shoulders. And your wrists extend from the elbows, so the forearms are in the number 11. We'll do some gentle neck release from here. Press through the forearms. Soften through the shoulders. It's this slight counteraction. The neck is neutral. Finding your breath within the shape. And we'll find some gentle movements of the neck. Slowly begin to tilt your chin upwards towards the ceiling. So the throat is exposed. Take in one more big inhale. And slowly lower the chin towards the chest. We'll pause here. The forearms are slightly engaged. Let the head be heavy. Next movement, slowly rotate the right ear, the right cheek towards the right shoulder. So you feel some degree of sensation in the left side of the neck. You can tilt your chin forwards and back. Eventually finding stillness. And exhale, slowly chin to chest. Keep the forearms slightly active. And then rotate your left ear, your left cheek towards the right shoulder. Seek sensations of opening in the right side of the neck. You can rock your chin forward and back. Eventually find stillness. And bring the chin towards the chest. We'll move breath to movement through that simple sequence. Keep the forearms slightly engaged all throughout. Next inhalation, gaze up, chin up. Exhale, chin towards the chest. Inhale, right ear to the right shoulder. Exhale, chin to chest. Inhale to the left shoulder. Exhale, chin to chest. One more time. Inhale, gaze up. Exhale, gaze down. Inhale to the right. Exhale, chin to chest. Inhale to the left. Exhale, chin to chest. Slowly bring the neck back through neutral. And then extend your left arm long. You can come up onto your left fingertips just briefly. We'll come into our neck shape. I call it X-arm shape. I don't really know if it's actually has a name. All right. And then we'll thread our right arm through our left arm. And then cross that left arm over. So the arms make an X. And then you can wiggle your fingertips as far away from one another as you like. You can curl your toes behind you, and you can wiggle forward any amount so that you can slowly lower your forehead down towards the floor or towards a pillow. Find a shape that's sustainable. And do your best to soften. I'll give you silence in the shape. Let your breath speak. We'll be here for about a minute longer. If any effort still remains, give that up to gravity, just for now. Last few cycles of breath. And slowly you release. You can make your way to crocodile pose once again, opening the elbows wide, stacking your hands on top of one another, forehead to the hands. Settle into stillness as quickly as you can and just notice how you breathe. Staying with the breath even in the transitions, we'll rise up once again to Sphinx pose, just to build the shape. Extend your right arm forward. You can come up onto your right fingertips, and then thread your left arm through as close as you can towards your left armpit. And then you'll wrap, or cross your right arm rather, in front of that. You can curl your toes behind you. And then shift your body weight forward until you find sensation in the back body, behind the shoulders. Knowing we'll be here for 2 minutes, find your shape. Settle in. And soften intentionally, as often as you can. Follow your exhale all the way out. And with that breath cycle, we begin to release, making our way back to crocodile pose, opening the elbows wide, stacking your hands on top of one another, forehead to the hands. Once again, just a few rounds of breath to notice how you breathe. We'll move on. Bring your palms underneath the shoulders and make your way to a tabletop position, shifting your shoulders above the wrists, hips above the knees. A little bit of movement. Cat-cows. First round, really slow. Inhale, lower the belly down towards the ground. Spread through the sit bones, spread through the collarbones, lift your gaze. Draw your shoulder blades towards one another, tilt the tail high. Take in one more big inhale. Exhale, navel towards the spine, chin to chest, tilt the tail in the opposite direction as you round the back body. Good. Press the ground actively away from you. And let's move breath to movement. Inhale, lower the belly down towards the ground, squeeze the shoulder blades tight. Exhale, navel towards the spine, chin to chest, round the back body. Twice more, just like that. Let your breath guide. And once you finished that last cycle of breath, you can make your way back to neutral. Walk your palms one hand distance forward, curl your toes behind you, and glide your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Let it be really gentle. You could be in tabletop if you prefer. And I won't give you any alignment patterns. We're in an upside down letter V-ish. And then let intuition really take the lead, like curiosity take over. You could pedal through the heels, sway the hips a little bit from side to side, find some spinal undulations. Eventually finding stillness, big breath in through the nose, big breath out the mouth. Slowly walk your feet forward. And find a seat. Here we're coming into a straddle pose. So you could choose to elevate the hips so that the hips are slightly higher than the knees and to eliminate rounding in the low spine. Or you can bring props underneath the knees. Before we settle in, we're gonna simply find about 60 to 70% of our full expression. Doesn't have to be anything so crazy. We're gonna do a little bit of mobility work. So we'll bring our hands out to the right so they frame the right leg, and then engage the right leg. Point your right toes. We extend through behind the right knee. Bring your right quadricep up. So we engage the right quadricep. And now we'll begin to internally rotate that right hip, meaning our right big toe will angle down towards the floor. Any amount, it might even touch it. And then slowly bring the hip back to our starting position. The right leg will stay active the whole time. We'll slowly just begin to rotate inwards with that right hip and then coming back to our starting shape. We keep moving just like that. It might express itself as a pinching in the front of the right hip. It might be incredibly uncomfortable. It is for me. Just stay with it. Stay with the breath. And then eventually you can release the effort from the right leg, give it a shake, give it a wiggle. And now we'll bring our awareness to our left leg, extending through the left toes, so pointing through the left toes, engaging the left quadriceps. Our hands are framing our left foot. So this movement comes from the femur, so it's the front of the left hip. Slowly begin to internally rotate, bringing that left big toe downwards towards the floor and coming back to our starting position while the left leg stays super active. And then just keep moving just like that, keeping that left leg strong and engaged. The movement comes purely from that internal rotation of the hips. And when you do expose those really sticky spots, breathe. Eventually finding stillness. You can release the effort and give that left leg a shake. Now feel free to maybe move towards 80% of what would be your full straddle. Keep both legs strong and active. I point my toes. You could flex the feet if you prefer. Keep your left quadriceps engaged. And now interlace your hands out in front of you and imagine a witch with a cauldron. So that's what we're gonna do. And you can stir the pot out in front of you like a witch. Stir in the cauldron. And then notice what direction you're stirring in and begin to stir in the opposite direction. Slowly finding stillness. Just noticing, pausing. You might even take a moment and close the eyes, shift your focus within. We'll transition back to more traditional yin poses. Bring your hands behind the knees and then bring the soles of the feet down to the ground. Hey, it can be quite sensational in its release, so our hands are simply helping us. And then you can briefly extend the legs long out in front of you, give them a little shake, a little wiggle if that would feel good. Eventually, we're gonna make our way onto our backs. A mini Shavasana, opening the legs wide, opening the arms wide, taking up space. Simply observing how you breathe. Big breath in through the nose. Big exhale out the mouth. Recline butterfly pose. Bring the soles of the feet to touch, knees out wide. You can choose to elevate your thighs with pillows, with props. Feel free to move in any way that feels intuitively best with the upper body. You might simply relax your arms or maybe bring them to the belly, to the heart. I invite you to take the variation of interlacing the hands behind the head if that feels good, just letting the elbows be heavy, letting the head rest heavy, closing the eyes. And as sensation builds in the shoulders and the inner hips, can you do your best to feel intensity without needing to create an analytical story about it? The body, it simply feels. It doesn't think in the same way the analytical mind does. Notice how the belly rises and falls, expands and contracts, letting gravity fill the space that effort very often does hold on and off the mat. If your hands are interlaced behind the head, switch the interlock of the hands. Opposite pinky, opposite thumb on top. Let the elbows be heavy. Head rests heavy in the hands. Notice what changed, what shifted. And just let the breath communicate with sensation for about a minute longer. And very slowly, you'll begin to release your arms first. If your hands are interlaced, you can just relax them by your sides or bring them to the body. They might be tingling, they might be numb. Just notice. And then bring your hands towards the legs and gently guide the knees inwards towards the chest, giving yourself a gentle squeeze. You could sway a little bit from side to side, massaging through the low back. Our last two shapes will be spinal twists. I won't say so much instruction. Arms out wide to a T. We'll first shift our hips 1 or 2 inches to the left. And then lower the knees to the right. So the knees could rest on a pillow. There could be a pillow between the knees. And you could keep the neck neutral, or you could choose to look over either shoulder. Let the breath move the body. When the mind wanders, return back to the breath. Take in one more big breath in and a full breath out. Slowly guide the knees back inwards towards your midline. And then shift the hips 1 or 2 inches to the right. You can move slower than my words. Eventually we meet knees in towards the chest, lowering the knees to the left towards a pillow or props. Arms can relax out into a T. Choosing where you want to look, what would create freedom within this moment, within the body, within the mind. What would that be like? It's only a practice of returning back to ourselves. Shifting the focus back within. As often and imperfectly as we can. One more full breath in. And a full breath out. Slowly bring the knees back in towards the midline. And then give yourself one last hug, a big, sincere squeeze, a moment of appreciation. It's going to be a prolonged moment of appreciation, so really hug yourself tight, both the physical body. Think of all the things that it does for us. Appreciate that. A celebration of all that the body can do within this hug. And with that, release. Spinal Shavasana. Extending your right foot to the right corner of the mat, left foot to the left corner of the mat. Arms relaxed by the sides of the body. Palms face up. The only thing that's left to do in this practice of passivity, this practice of surrender, is to receive. A few minutes to simply remind yourself of who you are when the doing stops. I'll guide you out in just a few minutes. Begin to deepen the breath. Coming back into the physical body. And then with the breath, invitation to enliven the body through small flickers of movement and the fingertips, the toes. Letting those motions become larger if the time is right. Eventually joining me in a seat. Letting the sit bones ground, the spine lengthen. Hands through to the center of the heart. It's an empowering choice to shift focus inwards. And to that knowing, we bow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, beautiful people. I hope that you enjoyed the practice. And I hope I get to practice again with you soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day.